Hi everyone, Tom from Handy and Practical and Tom the Banker. Just wanted to take a few moments to talk through this budget and ledger spreadsheet before you go ahead and purchase it or download it. So this spreadsheet is designed to keep track of both a checking account and a savings account. And what it does in addition to that, in addition to just being a traditional ledger, is that using the categories that you choose within the ledger itself, it will automatically calculate based on the date and based on the type of transaction, the category and the subcategory of the transaction, that it will produce a ongoing budget based off of what you've actually spent. So without further ado, I'm going to take you through and just take a look here. Just a couple of things to go through. The first is that there are the two transaction tabs. There's a checking transactions and savings transactions. They serve as the central place to record and manage transactions occurring within your bank accounts. It helps you keep track of your financial activities, categorize transactions, and maintain an accurate overview of your account balance. So only the data in the checking tab, as I mentioned, is used to create an actual spending recap on the actual tab, which is down here. The budget tabs, these are the tabs that show you the expected, actual, and difference within the budgeted figures, or based off the actual figures as well. But you should enter your expected transaction spend by category and subcategory into the yellow cells on the expected tab, that's down here, and this will be compared to the actual tab on the difference tab. So it'll enable you to create a more realistic budget for next year. On the transaction tabs, there's several different columns that you're going to be able to complete. The channel field is an identifier for what type of channel is being used to perform the transaction, whether it's a check or a debit card transaction or another electronic transaction. Those channels are defined further down here. I'm not going to run through them, but you can read them at your leisure. The date is the date when the transaction actually took place. The month is a hidden column, but it's used to calculate the totals of each transaction category during the month. The payee or payor is the recipient or the sender of the transaction. So one will be for a deposit, one would be for a loan. Cleared is just an identifier to indicate whether or not a transaction has been reconciled with the bank, which is an important step when you're doing any kind of tracking of your transactions. You want to make sure that the bank has the same thing as what you have, because if they do, then that's fine. If they don't, depending on whether or not they've shorted you money or whether or not they've duplicated transactions or any other number of errors that the banks can make and do make on a regular basis, even though it's all electronic sometimes, you need to be able to call them out on that. And that's one of the biggest reasons why we highly encourage to reconcile your accounts to the banks. The amount field is the amount of the transaction. You want to use a positive sign or no sign for a deposit that's going into the account, and a negative sign for any withdrawals or purchases. Either way, it goes into that same field. The balance will calculate automatically and displays the running balance after each transaction, and I've done this all the way through row 2500. So you should get at least 2500 transactions, which is more transactions than what I normally do in a month. In a year. So that should be enough for most anybody. Category is the category of the transaction. The subcategory is the subcategory of the transaction. We'll see those once we get into the actual file. The reference number is nothing more than just a receipt number or a check number or any other kind of indicator that you can reference a receipt back to whenever it is that you need to reference back to it, so that you can make sure that you're looking at the right transaction. And then you can leave any other notes related to the transaction if necessary. So by entering the transaction details into the tracker, you're going to have a clear picture of your financial activities, allowing you to manage your accounts effectively, categorize expenses, and maintain an accurate running balance. The drop-down menus for the categories and subcategories ensure consistent and organized tracking of your finances. You want to make sure that this spreadsheet is used for an annual basis. You don't want to use this for more than a year, because then the numbers are going to start getting messed up between the budgeting tabs. So you want to use this for 1 calendar year, and that's it. And then you can restart with a new file the next year. All of the tabs can be unprotected and modified if you need to make any modifications, if you feel comfortable doing that. And then if you do have any questions regarding this spreadsheet, you can always schedule a coaching session with me at tomthebanker.com/ask-me-anything, and that will get you direct access to me. And I hope that you find this spreadsheet enjoyable and useful. And so here we go. Let's go into the spreadsheet. So we're going to go to the checking transactions tab first, and you see we have a blank spreadsheet with the headers that we already talked about. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to put in what your current balance is in your checking account after all your transactions that you know about have posted. So you want to make sure that you're at a reconciled point before you just put a number in here, because if this number is wrong, then the rest of the numbers are going to end up being wrong too. So let's just say that you had a total of $600 in your checking account, and now you're going to make some transactions. And I'm not going to put a ton of transactions in here, but just to give you an idea of what it is that we're going to do. So let's say that you made a ATM withdrawal. So we're going to choose ATM from the channel, and that was on January 1st, 2023. And the ATM, you know, I usually just put the bank that I withdraw the ATM from. So, you know, you can do whatever you want to do to identify that transaction. But I'll just, you know, say XYZ Bank is the name of the bank. So I can actually just type that in. So we'll do XYZ Bank. I'm going to leave this blank in the cleared field for now, because we haven't cleared any transactions. This is for when you go back into your account, whether you get your statement or whether you go into online banking, and you can see that the transaction has actually appeared. You can select from the drop down yes or no at that appropriate time. So right now we'll just leave it blank. So the amount of the withdrawal that we make, let's just say we took out $40 out of the ATM. So that's going to be a negative $40, and it'll just come up as negative 40, and it automatically changes your balance to 560. So that's 600 minus 40 is 560. The category for anything here, I mean, you can choose a specific category. You know, whatever the category that you feel that this money applies to. You can also just do miscellaneous if you want. Under miscellaneous, we'll just say that it was for pet care. You know, you had to have somebody dog sit your dog for, and that's the money that you're giving them for that. And the ATM receipt may have a receipt number on it. So let's just say that it was 1234. You can just put that in there, and it'll automatically put that there. And notes, this is cash for Bobby for watching Snoopy. So there you go. So now we have one transaction that's listed in here. The next transaction that we're going to do is a ACH transaction. So ACH means automatic clearinghouse. These could be deposits or withdrawals, and it's basically an electronic transaction. So we're just going to say that on January 2nd, 2023, we had a direct deposit come in from your work. So so we'll just call it job company just for the sake of it here. And let's say you got paid $1,500.23. So that automatically adds to your balance. Now your balance is $2,060.23. And you can mark that as income and your salary and wages. There's also several other categories on here that you can consider putting that into. Now with direct deposits and electronic transactions, you may or may not have a tracking number or anything like that, so you don't have to put in a tracking number. You don't even have to put in any notes, so we'll just leave those blank for the time being. And then, so the next transaction that we're going to look at is just one more, and then I'll show you what this is doing on the other side. So let's just say that we have a check, and this is also on January 2nd, 2023, and let's say it's to your mortgage company, and that you have to pay your mortgage company a total of, I don't know, $985 for your mortgage. So you're going to take negative $985. You're going to choose down here, and it's going to say housing, and this is going to be your mortgage or your rent, and let's say you did check number 1201, and that was your total amount of the mortgage for that month. So I'm going to stop here because we have 3 transactions entered, but what you're going to see is if you move over to the actual tab, which is down here, you'll see that each of the categorizations that we have listed appear and are automatically populated under the month. So you see January we had salary and wages of $1,523, and we had mortgage and rent of negative $985. And if you scroll down a little further, we had miscellaneous pet care for negative $40. So it says that our total change in balance is $475.23, and that's a net positive because we had more coming in than going out. If you had more going out than going in, then this will be a negative number. So one thing that we didn't do is we did not fill out any of the income or expenses on the expected tab. So we didn't say how much money we thought we were going to have coming in. And so when we look at the difference tab, it's going to be similar to the actual tab because it's going to say the same numbers. It's saying, hey, you're off by $1,500 in wages, $985 in mortgage, and $40 in other expenses. But let's just say that those are the only three fields that we're working with here, and that you were expected to only make $1,000 in wages, and that your mortgage and rent was going to be $985, which it was, and that your pet care expenses, you actually thought that you were going to have $70 in expenses. So you see what I'm doing there is that I'm just entering what I thought the numbers were going to be, and this is something that you're going to fill out prior to doing any of your monthly budgeting, because it's what you think is going to happen. Okay, you can either do this on an annual basis or you can do this on a monthly basis, whatever works for you. But you want to make sure that you're doing it in advance so that you're thinking about what it is that you have coming in and going out of your account. So again, we've made these numbers and inputted them into the expected tab. You can see that the actual numbers are being pulled from the transaction tab, and then the difference tab is going to show you, hey, we got $500.23 more than what we thought we were going to get. The mortgage was dead on. There's no difference there. And the pet care, we saved $30 on what we thought we were going to spend. So we actually, we exceeded we were under budget by $530.23, which is the great thing about this, because now that you know what's going to happen with this month, you can have all this information for next year. You can prepare a budget for the next year or the next month, depending on how frequently the transactions occur. And so when you have all this information, it provides you with that benefit of being able to not have unanticipated expenses or unanticipated income, or things where you're going to be surprised. You don't want to. You want to eliminate the surprises, and that's what having a budget does for you. And so that's where I'm going to close with this spreadsheet. If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to have a coaching session with you, whether to talk about the spreadsheet or talk about your financial situations in general. It's tomthebanker.com/ask-me-anything, or you can go directly to tomthebanker.com and you'll be able to navigate directly to that there. So I hope you enjoy this spreadsheet, and I look forward to speaking with you soon. Thank you.